To start working on the travel poster, I searched Pixabay for images of London, and I downloaded about 9 or 10 different images, and after some experimenting, I settled on 3. Well, these are the 3 that I settled on. And since the main image is a nighttime theme, I decided to go with that, and I thought about like making it about nightlife. So I searched again on Pixabay for images of nightclubs and concerts and things like that, and I settled on this as well. So I have 4 photographic images that I am using in my travel poster, and I have the finished poster that I created right here. And just to see how this is constructed, I've got text, and I've got my images, and then I've got a background, just a solid colored background. And that's how I constructed mine. I composited the images together so that they blend into each other primarily using the layer mask. So here you can see the layer masks are linked to each of these layers, and you can see how these affect the layers. If I was to disable this layer mask, you can see how the black, when I paint black on the layer mask, it's masking out that part of the image, and it's letting the images or layers below it show through. So let's try this one. All right. Here's another. Let's disable, not delete. All right, and if I just toggle the visibility here, you can see how these are overlapping. And then another thing that I did on some of these was I adjusted the opacity of the layer. So this is at 43%, which allows the layer below it to show through better, or it blends it with the layer below it a little bit better. And then I also chose pin light on this particular layer for the blend mode. And there is a whole list of blend modes. The default is normal, but generally the most helpful, and pin light is an unusual one. I very rarely use that, but I settled on that just by experimenting, just by trying different blend modes to see what the effect looked like. And pin light worked very well for this particular image, but I find that the most helpful, or the ones that I use most often, aside from normal, are multiply, overlay, and lumosity. But I do use others on occasion. But again, the way that I figure out what blend mode to use is basically just experimenting. Like, so for this underground sign, I'm using lighten. And again, just by experimenting, trying different ones, it looked good to me. The guitar player is on normal, and so is the London Eye background image. So for the text, I organized this into subfolders, and then each of these subfolders has a set of layers inside of it. So for the London title, I initially created the type using the type tool. All right, so that's just normal type, but then I rasterized it. I converted it to a pixelated layer. But before I did that, I made a copy so that I had my original in case I wanted to go back. So once you rasterize type, you can't edit it. And so that's why these are here. These are my originals just in case I needed to go back to those. I needed to rasterize the text so that I could apply these effects to the text. So this text is the same typeface as this, but the effects that I applied to it after I rasterized it really made it look quite a bit different. So when I turn those effects off, you can see what happened there. So how did I rasterize that text layer? Well, what I did is I took my normal text layer, I made a copy of it so that I preserved my original. And then on the copy, I right-clicked and I chose Rasterize Type. And I didn't stop there, though. What I also did is I turned it into a smart object. And I turned it into a smart object by right-clicking again and then just choosing Convert to Smart Object. What that does is it allows me to apply the effects to the layer, and they're not going to be permanent. All right, so what I used for that layer is an effect called Outer Glow, and I found that by going under this Effects button and just scrolling down and choosing Outer Glow. Now the settings are in this Layer Style panel, and how did I achieve that effect that I ended up with? Well, again, it was a matter of experimenting. So rather than start from scratch on this, what I'll do is I'll just show you the one that I have placed in here, and if I double click this Outer Glow effect, it will show me the different settings. All right, so again, there's a blend mode for the glow as well. So that's important, and then just choosing these different settings, just basically experimenting with them and see what works. The contour was also something that I changed. So the default contour was this the straight line here, and it's quite a different effect. And if I go through these different contours, you can see how different my effect is looking. All right, so this is the one that I settled on, and then the spread and various settings like that. I've provided you with this file that you can download, and that is in Blackboard. So if we go into Blackboard, underneath the instructor example in the travel poster project, there's a zip file, and if you click on this file and download it, you'll find this layered file inside of there that you can explore, and you can kind of go in here and see how I did things.